Today on Cryptic Mass Guitar, we take a look at my 2007 Fender American VG Stratocaster and find out if this thing's any good. So just a quick bit of information here on that sound sample that you just heard. Other than changing the knobs on the guitar to get the different sounds and settings and such, the only thing I did to the Runt 50 was just turn the gain knob down and up and then crank it. That's basically it. Everything else, all the settings are the same on the amp. Now this review here is going to be very different than what you typically see because there's a whole heck of a lot to cover. There's like 18 to 19 minutes of just playing around on this thing. So there's going to be a lot of sounds. So I'm going to do this in a different structure. First and foremost, I want to answer 3 questions that I get all the time on this. So let's get that out of the way. So first and foremost, how do you know when the batteries are going to die here? So this is what it looks like. So you see that blue light flashing? That tells you that, hey, the battery's gonna die. So I actually played for over an hour with that light flashing. So you'll see, like, when I start doing all the like playing and turning the knobs and stuff like that, it starts flashing like halfway through or towards the end, depending on how I edit it. But you're still able to play for a long time. So it's not like you're gonna be, at a loss during a gig or anything like that. And the second question that I always get is, what happens if you pick it up and the batteries are completely dead? So this is what happens. So you can see all you have to do is turn the knob to N for normal, and then you just get an American standard, American series Stratocaster. Everything works fine. It's just the Roland pickup, you need to change the 2 double A's that are in there. And the last question that I always get on this guitar is in regards to the tuning. So basically, if you put this in like Dag Dad or drop D or open G, or you know what I mean, or a baritone, a lot of people always ask, you know, what happens if you're, you know, if you start messing around with the tuning pegs? Does it go out of tune or does it like fix itself? So here's what happens there. So as you heard, the guitar still kind of brings itself out of tune. So you still have to tune the guitar. It has to be in proper tuning. The other thing is, so in the main sample you heard, the guitar was in D standard, and then it changed all the tunings. So if I had had that in E standard rather than D standard, then it would have raised the pitch of everything. So when you were hearing the dag-dad tuning and stuff like that, it was actually dag-dad in C rather than regular dag-dad in D. So I'm going to quickly go over the specs because you have to do that during a review, right? And then we'll talk about these two buttons and this pickup here, because that's really what most people are after. Is, you know, this crazy American series, American standard Stratocaster. Plays freaking fantastic, and you know, that has effects built into it if you want to use a battery. So starting off, we have a urethane finished alder body. The neck is maple. It's supposed to be satin urethane on the back of the neck and satin on the front. However, it is a little bit of a gloss finish here. Not one of those crazy glosses, like there's not like a whole bunch of it, but it has gloss on the back of the neck. And it is a maple fretboard, so that maple is one piece there with the skunk stripe down the back, and we've got black dot inlays. On the front of the headstock here is where you're going to find the spaghetti Fender logo, made in USA, showing there. And on the back of the headstock is where you're going to see the Fender sealed die-cast tuners here. They are staggered, so we only have one string tree. A bone nut. Now this was during the transition from American Series to American Standard. American Series, basically they just changed the name and went from non-staggered tuners to staggered tuners with one string tree. So they kind of changed the name around because American Series was just a little weird. So we have American Standard pickups. Those are controlled by the 5-way blade switch, a master volume, and a master tone. And one of the key things with this being an American Series transition is we still have the 2-point tremolo system, which is easier to adjust, and the stainless steel block saddles. Once they changed back to the bent saddles, the stainless steel block saddles became like a luxury item. They started putting that on their deluxe models. So in a nutshell, those are the specs. So let's talk about this pickup, which is controlled by these two knobs here, and we'll just listen to a whole bunch of things. All right, so basically, this Roland pickup here is controlled by these two knobs. So we have one for mode, or model, whatever you want to call it, and one for tuning. So basically, mode, if you have it set to N, is normal. So that means this is bypassed and you're going to have the pickups. But once you start changing things, the Roland pickup starts to come into play. So what a lot of people love this guitar for, I wanted it for really, because I saw it when I was a little younger, and it always really fascinated me, and the effects work really well. There's no latency, there's no schmaz going on where if you play chords, it's all over the place. It's very, very well done. But most people get this for the acoustic and the humbucker function. So let's start out by listening to, we'll turn this to A, the mode button to A, and we'll hear all of the different variations of the acoustic, and then we'll actually put in the 12 string. We'll go through the tunings on the acoustic as well. And that is through the amp. I'm not plugged in like to a DI signal or anything like that. That's through the amp, through a cabinet, picked up with a microphone. So that's very different, very high quality effect. It also, because it's acoustic, it does have a reverb that's built in that you can't take out. It's just part and parcel with it. But let's go ahead and turn this to humbucker mode, and we'll just get the different sounds. Now, with the blade switch here, it does state that position 1 and position 2 are the exact same. They do not sound the exact same. They sound very different, or not very different. They sound slightly different. Position 4 and 5 are still the same, but I'm gonna play position 1 and 2, 3, and then 5, just so you can kind of make up your mind on your own. And then, because everyone wants to hear it, I'll do the 12 string, and then we'll do like the drop D. Next up, we have the Telecaster function. So we'll go through there. It's the same thing. I'm not going to play position 2 or 4. So basically, it's position 1, position 3, and then position 5 for the Telecaster. And then just because everyone's going to want to hear it, I'll throw in the 12 string at the end. Then for the final mode, we have Stratocaster. Now, Stratocaster. This is a Stratocaster. This is modeled after like a vintage type Stratocaster. There's going to be people in the comments who've owned this guitar, have much more knowledge on this guitar than I. They'll throw all of that information. So probably after a year or two, that'll be in the comments. Don't worry about it. You can Google it yourself as well. but through the manual, it doesn't really say, it just says a different Stratocaster. And some of the different versions of the Rolands can be a little different as well. So for this particular model, I'm just going to say a different Stratocaster. So we'll put it in Stratocaster mode. And then just everyone wants to hear that 12 string, so I will play the 12 string. Now I am going to get to some comparisons, but I always do the same thing in these videos because it's beneficial and you really need to hear, especially for this where a lot of the focus is going to be on the Roland pickup rather than the pickups themselves. So we're going to forego that for right now. We're not going to be listening to the Roland, but let's go ahead and listen to this clean with the actual pickups in all 5 pickup positions. And then we'll add a little bit of light drive here so you can hear how the breakup and everything goes through, how these actually handle a little bit of light drive with the actual pickups. Now you're seeing 4 knobs here instead of the regular 3. There's a reason why there's 3, and the bridge pickup is the big reason here, because you don't want to have the same tone controls on your bridge pickup that you do on your neck pickup. So that's why there's always a master volume on a Stratocaster and 2 tones. So with this one here, there's a master volume and a master tone. So that is something that you do have to put into consideration here. That means if you're going to be playing with a lot of drive, or you know, if you're going to be playing high gain or anything like that, you're going to want to set your tone back to like 5, 6, or 7. So that means you're going to be rolling your tone back and forth if you're going from, you know, the bridge to the neck pickup. At least that's my opinion, and that's what I do with it. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, just switch it to humbucker, and you're fine if you're going to be playing, you know, light drive or drive or high gain or anything. So that kind of negates the need for it. But let's go ahead and wiggle some knobs. That way you can hear the volume and the tone controls. And for those of you who are curious here, yes, the volume and the tone controls do affect the Roland pickup, but when the Roland pickup is activated and the mode is on, or models are on, these pickups here are not in use whatsoever. So let's get into some comparisons here. I don't want to grab my Martin D35 acoustic. That would mean I would have to go and grab mics and set things up, and it's a hassle. So we're going to forego the acoustic. However, let's take a look at what the simulated Stratocaster sounds like with this is a rarities. It's supposed to be like a 60s Stratocaster, so we'll call this a vintage one. There's gonna be differences. If I had like a 50s Stratocaster, it would sound different than the 60s, just the way that they wound their pickups. There's different focus on certain frequencies when it comes to that, so just keep that in mind. This might be a little duller than this one here, so there might be a little more high end in it. Duller is not the right word here. So we'll do a 5 pickup position comparison. The next comparison that we have here is the Telecaster simulation versus an American Series Telecaster. This is a 2003. This is an ash-bodied Stratocaster here. So that gives you, a bit of a good idea of what the differences may be. Still, because this is an American Series here, the pickups might be just a hair brighter and a little hotter than the pickups or the simulated Telecaster that is in the VG Stratocaster. So we'll do a 3 pickup position comparison. And finally, of course, we have to grab a Les Paul, right? So the humbucker function that's in here is not a Les Paul simulation. It's just a humbucker simulation, but I have never been a big fan of humbuckers on a Stratocaster because I'm a big fan of the single coil neck on a Stratocaster. And generally when you jump from the humbucker to the neck, there's a volume drop when it comes to Stratocasters with humbuckers going to a single coil. It's just something that I've noticed over the years. You may have a different Stratocaster that doesn't have that, but that's why I don't have any Stratocasters with humbuckers anymore. But we'll do the simulated humbucker in the 3 pickup positions versus the Gibson Custom Les Paul 1959 VOS. So that's it for all of the different sound samples and all the different comparisons. This video here, normally my format is, you play a regular sound sample that has a lead to it, then you go over the specs, and then I usually do like 5 different, I grab 5 different amps, put it in 5 different tunings, but because there's so many differences here with the knobs, I didn't have to do that. So this is a little different. Normally this is where I say, hey, let's find out, do you think this is a good guitar or not? But there is one thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the VG Stratocasters, and that is used conditioning. So, the VG Stratocaster, if you look at the back here, so let's take a look. You got some stuff here. So, you have the battery cavity, which 9 times out of 10, these break off. These clips, or this clip here, breaks off. Put it back in, Ryan. So when you're buying it on the used market, usually there's like a thing of tape over here because this has broken off, they've lost it, or they've taped it back on rather than, trying to get someone else to put a battery compartment on there. Also, this, on the back, this plate compartment here, this generally is cracked or completely lost, and you have tape. Not 9 times out of 10, but I've seen it like maybe 40% of the time. And this is a regular back plate. You're fine. If this is missing, just go get another one, or leave it open, because really it's easier to adjust if you leave it open. The other thing here is it is 2025 right now. Whenever you're watching it, it could be a different year. Hopefully it's not a 2023 when you're watching it, because time travelers. But it's 2025. This is a 2007. That means this is an 18-year-old guitar. That means it has had 18 years to get a whole bunch of dents and little scuffs in them. So you will typically see things like this. So like little bit of chipping on, it's usually, I don't know why, it's usually on the bottom or on the top or on the edges. The bottom edge here is usually because they've laid it on the ground and it's scuffed, or they put it on concrete. People do that. Here it's usually when they take it off, and they let it swing, like they take it off the strap or whatever, it swings and it hits something. And that's usually where you get all the dents and stuff like that here. And in the top, I don't know. That's maybe when they go to put it away on a stand or something, they bump it or scratch it against there. So that is highly, 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 highly typical of what you're going to see if you're picking this up on the used market. The pricing is also going to vary because of it. If you are, now I'm in Canada, in the US, this could be very, very different. Any other country could be very, very different. I could say, you know, like if you have one that has a missing compartment on the back or it's all completely scuffed up beyond recognition, you're probably going to pay $1,400 to $1,600 for the guitar. If it's in good condition and it's, you know, has like the scratches like this, you're probably going to pay $2,000. Again, this is Canadian. You might be lucky to be able to get it for $1,800, but usually there's a few caveats there where something like, you know what I mean, it's not set up or something along those lines, or, you know, like something, there's some wear in the bridge, something like that should be. When it comes to these guitars that are in immaculate condition, so the guitars that have no scratches on them and, you know, like it looks like they're absolutely brand new, you might pay anywhere from $2,200 to $2,500. Again, Canadian pricing. You could find someone that is desperate to sell this, never used it, or it's someone's mom or someone's wife or something like that, and you may get it at a lower price, but that's typically what you see these guitars for on the used market. Now, why do I bring up pricing here? Other than the fact that I'm probably going to be selling this guitar just because I'm trying to switch over my collection to custom shop. Even though I've wanted this guitar since, I think, whenever they initially brought in the VG lines. Like, I think they were Mexican at that point. The reason I'm bringing up pricing is because I want to talk about the battery. So this takes 2 AA's. Not regular, the NIMH, I don't know what that is. I could Google it, but I don't care to right now. You need to buy those like higher end batteries for this. Batteries scare the ever-loving crap out of live guitar players. EMG pickups, to change those, there's usually either a compartment or you gotta, you know, undo 3 or 4 screws and change the battery every 200 to 300 hours. And that, a lot of people will be like, but it takes batteries. I mean, that's not reliable. The battery life on this guitar here, with those type of batteries, 10 hours. So if you're going to a gig and you haven't changed the batteries in a while, you might start to see that blue flashing. When you have the blue flashing, you can play for at least an hour. So if your gig is like 4 hours long and you've got the blue flashing there, you might have some issues, which means you might have to, you know, bite the bullet and go like this and take 2 batteries out and put 2 new batteries in and then close the battery compartment. That is a huge hassle, right? And again, the reason I'm bringing up pricing here is you can get on Amazon, you can get a rechargeable battery set. I paid $30. It might have been $35. Again, Canadian. So like $15 or $20 US for a battery charger that comes with 8 batteries. So if, you know, you're playing a gig, say it's Wednesday, and you're playing a gig Friday or Saturday, throw those batteries on a charger, and then once they're all fully charged, put them in your case. And then switch the batteries before you play your gig. I don't think you're going to be playing for longer than 10 hours. And if for some reason you're playing an 11-hour gig, change the batteries after after a couple of songs. It takes like 30 seconds. I don't understand where people get so concerned over the fact that these have batteries. So it's not a big deal if you spend $2,000 on a guitar, to pay $30 or $35 Canadian for a set of 8 rechargeable batteries with the charger to charge them. It's not a huge deal. Okay, now that I've had that rant, which should be on the same level as people who go out and buy an SG that doesn't have a tremolo system on it, and then pay $15 for a nylon strap instead of $25 to $30 for a leather strap, and then complain, the neck is heavier, there's neck dive, I can't live life. So the battery thing, on the same level. If you think I'm a jerk, say I'm a jerk. I'm sorry. I'm a grown man. Okay, with that rant done, let's talk about how the guitar feels and whether or not I think this is a good guitar. And I'll answer it right off the bat. This is a phenomenal guitar. You take the Roland VG system out of here, and it's just a fantastic American series / standard Stratocaster. Again, the block saddles are now considered higher end than the bent saddles, right? So they're stainless steel block saddles. It's like having an upgrade. So those like 90s to early 2000 Stratocasters, like American Standard or Series Stratocasters, they had upgraded bridges on them, or saddles on the bridges. Throw the VG system in here, and you now have an overpowered Stratocaster. So if you want to play different styles, you just turn the friggin' knob, and people will know that you're playing one because there's a blue light on it. The different tunings, it's neat. It's a neat function. In the studio, it's weird, because if you can hear these strings, it'll mess with your mind. But in a live setting, you're not going to hear the strings. So with headphones, obviously, you don't hear it. But if you're playing it in like a studio environment where you can hear yourself play the strings because the cabinets are in another room, it'll seem a little off. But live, it's fantastic. But to me, the tunings, I would much rather put the guitar in the particular tuning that I'm looking for. And that's just because I'm someone who always changes my tuning. I rarely ever play an E standard. When it comes to Strats, I always think E flat standard. When it comes to Telecasters, D standard. Other than that, I've been doing DAD-GAD a lot in like C sharp, C, B. It's just, I'm one person that really finds a lot of benefit. It kind of keeps me going musically to change my tuning a lot. Gives me a different perspective each time I record. The tuning knob here, most people will use it for that 12-string function. I'm not gonna lie to you, playing it on just like the regular pickups with the VG here, in like a clean setting, it sounds exactly like Metallica playing Fade to Black live in the 90s. It's just the Binge and Purge set. You're gonna play that. If you start playing on the 12 string and you like Metallica, just get used to playing Fade to Black for like an hour and a half, and it's gonna be so satisfying. But the mode or model knob is really where everything is at. That is what makes this so extremely versatile. And the fact that the acoustic setting has 5 different acoustic types with reverb built in, just by flicking the blade switch here, just gives you that much more. So you don't have to have that pedal for acoustic, or you don't have to have a separate acoustic. You can take this, plug it into a PA, and you can play this rather than bringing an acoustic to a gig with you. That might be a little more beneficial, especially if you're playing, multiple sets with multiple different bands, or just you have a very versatile set list. The humbucker option as well is a huge welcome addition to the modes or models. Those two options, the acoustic and the humbuckers, are really why I absolutely loved this guitar here. They work really, really well. Now, the humbucker setting, I do have to say, with the VG stuff, it is missing a little bit of that top end that you would typically get. Not by a lot, but if you're playing with the humbucker setting, you might want to tweak your treble by, like, touch it a hair, increase it a little bit, and it'd just be a little more pleasing for you. If you don't want to do that, it's probably not going to be that much noticeable. And really, I could say the Telecaster function for the bridge and the middle are fantastic. I mean, the neck too, but the middle position is really where it's at on a Telecaster, and the alternate Strat type here will just give you other options. I don't think it's extremely beneficial. Like, I prefer these pickups here over the Strat model itself that's built in, but that's just my opinion and my preferences, just because I really do like these pickups. And as I stated earlier, 2-point tremolo system, to me it is a lot easier adjusting this. I'm not someone who likes playing with a tremolo arm on, so when you're tightening the springs and making your adjustments, your overall height adjustment here, it just seems to work, and it allows you to make your tuning, without tuning it 6 or 7 times, because there's a balance that goes on here. So if you're tightening your springs a little more, that'll keep that in place to where you don't have to tune like crazy to get everything going. Modern C neck here on this guitar is so comfortable. There's just something about a Strat neck, especially if you're playing leads or if you're a big noodler. They're so comfortable, and the fact that it has all the different tonal variations just in a typical Stratocaster just makes it a lot more pleasing. But the neck is super, super comfortable. Again, like I stated, it's supposed to be satin on the back. But there is a little bit of gloss, not like a crazy overall gloss. You're still gonna know that there's wood on the, on your hands when you're playing it on the back of the neck. Not as much as you would feel with the satin, but it is satin on the front, so it's not one of those Strats that's like just nothing but, urethane gloss on it. So overall, great Stratocaster. American made, that's the big thing. Some of the VGs were made in Mexico. They're not as valuable. Mexican Strats, usually at the neck pocket, there's like cracks and stuff like that. It doesn't affect anything. It just looks weird. But yeah, this is a little more valuable, obviously, because of the fact that it's American made rather than Mexican made. But overall, it's a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic guitar. And again, 2-point tremolo system with the block stainless steel saddles. You just can't beat it. So that's enough of me talking and all the different playing. Thanks for watching.